soaker hose to water the plants for 1 or 2 weeks in a shady spot after they arrive. They are from these thin ones are actually from Lowe's, but I got them because they were healthy. Most plants at Lowe's don't seem to be healthy. And the rest I got at myperfectplants.com, and it arrived quick and seems fine so far. For like 30 minutes every other day. But yeah, so I don't have to remember to water the plants. I can just leave and do my job. Privacy trees from the mail, and so you can't keep them on concrete because the heat of the concrete will cook the roots. You also can't keep them out in the open sun too, because they will cook from the sun in the little pots. You have to keep them, put the pots on the soil and in the shade. When you get the plants from the mail, put them on the soil so that they don't cook from hot concrete, and put them in the shade because the sun will heat up the little pot and cook the roots, and then you will get a brown dead tree. My property line was marked by this stick and this square stone. It was on the survey plans, and on the survey plans I knew that the post of the fence was at the property line, and I tied a string. It's a special string that builders use, and then I measured an equal distance from the string to the boards so that they're straight. I kept moving it. Knew that the plant will grow 1 foot to the left and 1 foot to the right at its maximum maturity. So when it's the biggest it will get is 1 foot on each side. So I measured enough distance so that there is no gap in between, but that they're not too close that they're running into each other. And if you type in the name of the plant into Google, it will tell you its width, the maximum width, how wide it will get at its biggest size, because it will keep growing for years and get really, really big. And so you plant it planning that it will look good like you want it years later when it gets the biggest it will get. So I'm planting a privacy fence, and there's a huge tree right here, and if you damage the roots underneath, the root can get infected. The infection can travel up the tree and make the tree sick and less strong to wind and storms. So in order not to damage the roots, I'm planting my privacy fence in a raised bed. And I made this raised bed from a cedar board. This one is a 12-foot cedar board from Lowe's. It's not rated for ground contact, but we'll see. And they had pre-cut regular wood that will rot eventually, but I'll reinforce it with cedar later on. That's already cut in a 2-foot piece at Lowe's. So in order not to have to use a saw, I just bought that and I screwed it in from both sides with a drill and long screws. And actually used long screws and just screwed them into the ground at an angle so that the raised bed wouldn't move and become not straight. After I aligned them, I tied the string it's that builders use. I had two property line markers, and I then made this straight, measuring from here to there. And if you just put soil on top of grass, the grass will grow through. So in order to stop the grass from growing through, I put cardboard and I'm wetting the cardboard so that I can put pots on top, line them up on the string so they're straight, and measure them 3 feet from each other. These ones are 1 foot from each other. Supposedly you can plant them this close. The sky pencil holly. These plants here will have to be will not be able to be planted too close, or they'll have unstable root structure. They won't be healthy, and they won't look good. And I did consider that the sun is shining on the neighbor's house, and I'm trying not to block out the light for the neighbor, but we'll see. Maybe I'll just plant like a tall privacy fence for this half, and these more see-through plants here so that you can see the street and get sunlight. You always want to think about how your renovations affect the neighbors, because if your house makes your whole street better, it kind of comes back around to you and makes your own house be more pleasant and in harmony. It's an architecture principle. You don't want to do just things that are good for you but bad for your neighbors, because every time you come to a house it will stand out, and then you'll feel a little bit of stress, and your house will have less curb appeal. I have what's called a soaker hose that's on a timer to the garden hose, and this is how it waters. I'm not sure the way I made it that the plants will actually get enough water, so I've been supplementing with just a garden hose on top so that they don't dry out at the same time, so they don't get too much water either. So this is a sky pencil holly, and it has to be planted 24 inches apart. So I'm measuring 24 inches because planting it too close will make it have a bad root structure, and the plants will suffocate each other. So 24 inches supposedly is as close as you can plant them, although there is one gentleman on YouTube who said you can plant them right next to each other, but I haven't heard anybody else say that, so I'm doing 24 inches like the guide recommends. If you plant it like it says on the instructions, as far apart as it says on the instructions, I think that's the safest bet to get a good result. Planting too close may result in a nicer, more dense hedge, or it may result in sick plants that don't look good. I think it's for me at least unknown. So 24 inches apart it is, and you're also supposed to plant in odd numbers, 3, 5, or 7, and then after 7 it doesn't matter if it's odd or not, supposedly. So I'm planting 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you plant it, you want to step on the soil to squish it together in order to eliminate gaps inside the soil. They're called air gaps, and they kill the roots that end up in these air gaps because the root has to be surrounded by soil, and you don't want it to be caught in an air gap bubble. So after you put the soil around the plant, you compact it together, and you want like a hill around the plant going down toward the soil around it. So around it you want a hill sloping downward away from the plant, like you want the plant to be on a little mountain so that rainwater doesn't go toward the plant, making it like wet, because a wet plant attracts fungus and pests. But you also don't want the soil right at the plant's base to touch the actual plant. So you want to move the soil away from the plant so the soil doesn't touch anything but the roots and just the very bottom of the plant's stem. But then later on, you want the immediate roots to be inside this hill, and then the soil to slope downward. But you don't want the soil to touch the plant. So you make like a little, like a lane, a clearance lane around the stem of the plant, but then later on you make a hill going downward. And you also compact the little hill with your feet to eliminate gaps, air pockets that would kill the roots that are inside any of those air bubbles. As you can see, I made a little hill around each plant and made it so that the rest of the soil is a little lower than the hill. I take the plant pot, the plastic plant pot out. It'll create a little slot, and I'll cut the plastic with this box knife, and I'll peel the plastic pot away from the plant's roots, and I'll put the plant's roots in the slot where the plastic was. You see, I took out the pot and I headed up with a slot to put the plant in, and I'm gonna cut the plastic to peel away from the roots, and then I'll just insert the plant into the slot. This way I don't damage the roots if I'm trying to, and don't damage the plant if I'm trying to peel it out of the pot. You can see I have cut the plastic in 4 places with the box knife blade, and it peeled away from the root ball of the plant, and I can just lift the root ball and put it into the ground. Yeah, like that, and I can push the root ball down. I push the plant into the ground with my hands, and I push the soil around the plant down with my hands to eliminate air gaps and air bubbles. To make the plants look good, you want to plant them in a very straight line. And to make this a straight line, you use a builder's string, and I tied the string from one end to the other and made sure it's straight, and then I put the pots along the string, the middle of the plot on the string, so the center of the pots is where the string runs through. And you can see the string is right there. It runs through the center of the pot. This is how I tied the string, with the screw screwed into the wood. And I made sure the screw with the string is in the center of this piece of wood. So again, the reason I'm doing a raised garden bed on top of the grass is because there's an ancient tree that has tree roots running all over, and if you damage one of the roots of the tree with your shovel, it creates an opening for a fungal infection to get into the root, go up the tree, and make the tree sick. So in order to not make the tree sick, potentially sick and then weaker, and then it might fall eventually, I'm just planting my plants on top of the grass by making a raised garden bed using cedar plank from Home Depot. Cedar is resistant to moisture naturally, so it doesn't rot out from rainwater and from ground contact for years, maybe even decades. And then to make sure the plants are straight, I measured the center, the half of this piece of wood on the side, put a screw in there, and then measured the center half of this piece of wood on this side, put a screw there, took a builder's string, tied it here, and then went all the way here, tied it to this screw, and made sure it was straight. And then I put the pots with the center of the pot on the string, and I measured the recommended distance, planting distance, which is 2 feet for these plants, so that the roots don't suffocate each other and the plants don't become sick from being planted too close. And then I put soil. This is a shrub, so the shrub is similar to a tree in its plant type. So I bought plant I bought a shrub slash tree soil at Lowe's because you want to use tree slash shrub soil for a shrub or a tree that you're planting. It'll grow better. And I was also hoping that the acidity of the soil matches the preferred acidity of the plant. This plant prefers slightly acidic soil. I don't know if that soil is acidic, hoping it is. I can test it with a cheap Amazon plant soil testing kit, which tests the acidity of your soil. And then actually, when you're around it, near a big tree, you don't want to use any kind of fertilizer or any kind of additive to make the soil more acidic or not, because using different fertilizers around the tree can the tree is very sensitive. The tree roots is very sensitive. Like the tree roots will feel anything you do on this grass. So if you put fertilizers inside, you can kill the tree, and you don't want to kill this tree because then it will fall over on the house. So my plan is to not really use any fertilizers in order to protect this tree. I'll just use compost, horse manure, 1 or 2 year aged compost, not fresh compost. Compost has to age for a year or two, otherwise it can burn the plant. Or actually I put leaves and grass in a pile. Some mice do come there, but then I put mouse traps in the basement, so the mice do come in the basement, they get caught in the mouse traps and don't make a nest inside the basement. And the leaves and grass age in a pile for a year or two for me, and then it's like kind of like this biodegraded compost that I put on top as mulch, so it protects the soil from drying out from the sun. The mulch does, and also the mulch releases good stuff for the plant, like it's like a natural fertilizer, and it also improves the flora of bacteria and fungus and little insects to make the plant healthier, because it's all an ecosystem. The plant's roots, the little insects, the bacteria, the fungus, the organic material. It's like it's like brewing beer or something. It has to brew, and it just has to be the correct combination, and the natural one is the best. I have surrounded the soil again around the pots, trampled the soil with my feet to compact it, made a little hill around each pot with a shovel, and I dragged the shovel in between and alongside to make a groove around the side and in between the plants. Trampled it again. Then I took the pots, creating a slot or a hole, a round hole where the pot was, and in order not to damage the plant and not to stress the roots by pulling the plant out of the pot, I used the box knife. You can also use scissors to cut the plastic pot away from the roots and peel the pot away. And then I lifted the root ball and just put it into the hole, and then I pushed it down with my hands, and I trampled around it to eliminate any air gaps, air pockets that would kill the roots that are caught inside this air bubble. You don't want air bubbles around any roots, because the root will rot and die. And now I have a little hill around each plant. I also peeled the soil away from the plant stem, because soil touching the plant stem will rot it, and then it will make it wet, and then fungus can enter the wet part of the plant. So you peel the soil away from the root stem, but you then create a little hill down, so water doesn't make the plant stem wet. But it goes down away from the plant. And then I'll put mulch on top. The mulch will protect the soil from drying out from the sun, and it will also add a natural fertilizer, because as the mulch, it's a decomposed material, and it has a beneficial flora of bacteria and fungus and maybe insects to make the plants grow better. And for mulch, I used just grass cuttings and the leaves from the fall when I was doing yard cleanup. You see, I just threw the leaves and grass in a pile. Yes, I did get mice there, but I put in the basement, I put mouse traps, so when the mice get into the house, they get caught, and that's it. They don't create nests. It might be a problem for the neighbor. I'm sorry. Hopefully not. Well, you can actually discourage mice by maintaining short grass. The mice may be afraid to go under the sun, and just it prefers to live inside tall grass. And I'll put the garden soaker hose there, make sure it provides enough water, and put it on the timer so I don't have to remember to water it. And I'm doing half an hour every day of water. I don't know if it's enough or not. I'll have to keep checking so that the soil isn't soaking wet but isn't dry either, because if the soil dries out, it damages, stresses, but also it can damage the plant's roots in the plant so much that the plant can dry out and die. So you want to keep an eye to never allow the plant to dry out, but you also don't want to make it a swamp, because swamp rots the roots and also kills the plant. So just moist soil in between. And then I'm gonna walk on top of the soil to compact it and to eliminate any air gaps, because air gaps kill the roots that are caught inside the air gap inside the soil. I have this Melnor brand automatic battery powered garden timer watering timer, and it seems to have worked okay for 2 or 3 years now. It turns on, it turns off. These parts, the connections between the hose and the where you screw it on, can leak water sometimes. You have to be careful to screw them on straight and not at an angle. Don't force them in when you screw them on. Take them out and then screw them back in straight if you didn't, and it turns on automatically, but it can also turn when you press the on button if you want. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn it on. See, it doesn't leak. I screwed it on and it doesn't leak. See, so this is the pile of leaves for 2, 3, even 4 years that I've had. It just decomposes and I use it as mulch. But be careful, because you can get a tick on yourself. There's ticks on the grass, especially after a rain. So what I do is I spray myself, my feet, my shoes, and my pants with the permethrin, the anti-tick spray. And actually, and then I take a shower afterward to wash off any ticks that are on your body. They still can get into you, but you don't want any ticks on yourself, obviously, because they can carry disease. But actually, to make sure I have 0 ticks, what I've done is, you know those white suits that painters wear, or like demo crew, or even like asbestos cleanup people? It's called a Tyvek brand white suit. It's like this plasticky paper that you wear. It's like a little tiny, like a little thin spacesuit, and I wore that, and it's white, and this way I was 100% sure I get 0 ticks, because it covers you up completely. It even has a little hood that goes, a hoodie that goes on top of your head. So to make sure I get 0 ticks when I go through like this thick grass, that's what I've done. I wore the Tyvek suit, and you can get the Tyvek suit on Amazon or Home Depot for like $30. This is how a hose works, the garden soaker hose. It's like $15-20, and it releases water along the hose. One thing is that if you connect several of these in a row, there's not enough water pressure to reach the ones at the end. So as far as I know, I can use 1, 2, I don't know, maybe not. And this is just the leaf mulch, the mulch from the leaf / grass pile that's been decomposing for a year or two. I just throw it on. One thing is, it can carry diseases. I do have diseases, fungal diseases on trees and plants. So it can carry diseases. If I wanted not to spread diseases from one plant to another, I would just throw this away, like in a bag, and get it picked up by the city. But my idea is, if the diseases cross-contaminates these plants, I'll just find plants that are resistant to those diseases, so I don't have to worry about cross-contamination. In fact, there's this one farmer in Canada, organic farmer, he says, grow stuff that grows like weeds. That's low effort, you don't have to worry about diseases, because it's resistant to the diseases, fungal diseases or pests that are in your area. Just grow stuff that grows naturally. It's just naturally adapted to be really strong in your area, and then you don't have to spray with chemicals against fungal diseases or pests, and it's just easier. But it does take time. Try one plant for a few years, and then if it doesn't work, you try another one. Take years and decades. So this is what I'm making, like a little enclosed patio / picnic table area. The table would be here, and the enclosure would be with privacy plants, evergreen, sky pencil, holly, and Smaragd, Arborvitae, which grows supposedly 8 feet high and 3 feet wide. I was concerned about creating shade for the neighbor, so maybe I'll just end the big plants here so he can look out the street and gets sunlight. or maybe it won't be so bad. Maybe it'll just be shade that ends below the window. I took a stick and the shade did end below the window, so maybe it won't be so bad. We'll see. You look where the north, east, south, and west is on the map, and then in the northeast, United States, and on this side, the sun rises over there, goes up, shines straight down, so this area bakes. Then the south, that is the east, and that is the south. So the sun is in the south. It shines directly on the front of the house, which is shielded by the tree. So the neighbor actually put these sunshades on top of his windows at some point in the past, probably decades ago, because he was getting baked by the sun. And then the sun goes down on west at the angle and of this house, and it shines right here with this gentle light in the evening. So the sun in the evening and later part of the day goes more like horizontally, not from above, but just at the ground level. So, but also a little bit at an angle. So we'll see. Maybe it will be shade, maybe it won't be shade, because maybe it'll be just partial shade, because the sun is horizontal but also at an angle, so maybe it'll just go through like a little bit above the trees as well as through them. Some of the tools I used a tape measure, I used a shovel, and I put the mulch, the leaf mulch, into this bucket to transport it. I also have this dumpster in the bag. You just put construction trash. There are some limitations. There's a list of stuff you can't put into this dumpster bag, and then a truck comes with a little crane and picks it up, puts it on the truck and takes it away. It costs like $120 to schedule a pickup, and the bag is an additional like $30. So when going into the grass where there are ticks, I wear this Tyvek $30 suit from Amazon, and I also spray my feet with the permethrin anti-tick spray. Now I have spread the leaf mulch from the leaf pile from 2-3 years ago that I've had for 2-3 years. I just mow my grass, and there's a bag behind my Ryobi electric battery powered lawnmower, and it has a vacuum in it where it vacuums up the grass that it mows from the ground, and it automatically dumps it into a bag behind it. And once the bag is full, I disconnect the bag and carry the bag to the pile, dump it there, reconnect, and then keep mowing until the bag is full again. In the fall, when there are leaves on the ground, I don't rake leaves because it takes a lot of time and work. I found that the Ryobi battery powered leaf mower with the bag behind it works as a vacuum, and it literally, when you mow the leaves on the ground, it shreds them into little pieces and vacuums them up and dumps them in the bag behind it. It's like a vacuum, a rolling vacuum for the leaves. And I highly recommend using this method instead of raking your leaves by hand. Much easier to use the leaf vacuum function of your lawnmower that has a bag behind it. Another method is you could mow your grass and mow your leaves and just leave the shredded pieces on the ground. If you do it frequently enough, it just decomposes and blends with the ground, supposedly. So instead of carrying the bags from my car, I was putting them on this garden cart so that I don't have to carry them by hand. And I was just picking them up and ripping a hole in the top of the bag and just dumping half a bag in between the plants, and then using a shovel to even out the soil, trying not to move the plant pots out of place. Figuring how to space them, and they ended up with 3, 5, and 5. 5 in the front, 5 on the side, 3 in the back. I am not an artist and I don't have any ability to think spatially. I'm not good at decorating or any kind of design, but I did read online that plants look better when planted in 3s, 5s, and 7s. This seems to look the best because 5 and 5 match, so it creates like its own section more aligned to the front of the house horizontally, and then this creates its own section with the 3 making like the rear of the house its own section as well. But I'm sure you can space it out better. I was thinking about hiring a professional landscape designer, and I still might. I'm gonna plant this and then see what people think. I can always dismantle all of this and pay someone to replant it. So I'm dumping these bags of shrub and tree soil from Lowe's in between the plants so the pots don't fall over, and then making the soil even with the shovel and also a rake. And this is the leaf and grass cuttings pile where in the summer I just mow the grass with the Ryobi electric battery powered mower. It has a bag in the rear of the mower and it sucks up the grass cuttings like a vacuum and puts them in the bag behind it. I detach the bag and just carry it over and dump it here in the pile. I get a pile of grass cuttings, and in the fall I use the same mower to vacuum up. It works like a vacuum, and it vacuums up the dry leaves from the ground and puts them and shreds them into the bag. So I just mow up some leaves, then detach the bag and dump it here into this pile, and I have a pile of leaves and grass, and I keep it for a year or 2 or 3. At first it's big and then it dries up, and it biodegrades into a mulch with different bugs and different bacteria and fungus, and I use the mulch on top of around the bushes and flowers. It's like, I think it's probably better than store-bought mulch, because the store-bought one it doesn't have as many bacteria, fungus, and doesn't have the bugs. It's like sanitized, so it doesn't like fertilize and balance out the ecosystem around the plant like this does. This can carry diseases from one plant to another, but my philosophy, it may be the wrong one, is that if a plant isn't resistant to diseases that other plants have, I'll just plant something else instead. I want things to grow on their own with the least effort and be resistant to the diseases that are in the area. I'm dumping the mulch here in order to transport it in the bucket to where my bushes are. This is what I ended up with